The email hit my inbox at 4:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Mandatory performance review, tomorrow, 9 a.m. My stomach dropped. In my 3 years at Brennan and Associates, a prestigious consulting firm in Chicago, I'd never had an unscheduled review. I'm Marcus, 32 years old, MIT graduate, 5 years of experience before joining B&A. I'd brought in 3 of our biggest clients that quarter alone. My presentations were used as templates firm-wide, yet somehow I knew this wasn't going to be about celebrating my achievements. The next morning, I wore my best suit, the charcoal one my grandmother said made me look presidential. Walking through the glass doors of the conference room, I found not just my direct manager, Tom, but also HR Director Patricia Brennan, the founder's daughter, and Craig Stevenson, the VP of Operations. 3 white faces, perfectly aligned like a tribunal. "Marcus, please sit," Patricia said, her voice honeyed with false concern. She slid a paper across the table. "We've completed a comprehensive leadership assessment." I scanned the document. Words jumped out. Lacks executive presence. Communication style too aggressive. Not aligned with company culture. Clients uncomfortable with confrontational approach. Confrontational? I kept my voice level, though my pulse hammered. "Which clients complained?" Tom shifted uncomfortably. "Well, it's more of a general feeling we get. You know how it is." I did know. Like when Tom interrupted me mid-sentence in every meeting. Like when Craig assigned Brad, hired 2 years after me, to lead the Morrison Industries project I'd developed from scratch. Like when Patricia suggested I smile more and soften my approach, while Brad got praised for his commanding presence using my exact presentation style. "We think you're talented," Patricia continued, "but leadership requires a certain polish, a way of making others comfortable. You understand?" The room felt airless. Through the glass walls, I could see my colleagues pretending not to watch. "Let me understand this correctly," I said, pulling out my phone to record. "Despite exceeding my targets by 150%, bringing in $3.2 million in new business, and having the highest client retention rate on my team, you're saying I lack leadership material?" Craig leaned forward. "No one's questioning your numbers, Marcus, but numbers aren't everything. There's a cultural fit component." Cultural fit. I let the words hang. In my MIT thesis on organizational psychology, I studied that phrase extensively. Interesting how it's never defined, but always applied. Patricia's jaw tightened. "Are you implying something?" "I'm stating facts. Brad missed his targets for 2 consecutive quarters. He lost the Henderson account, yet he's being promoted to senior manager. I'm curious about the metrics you're using." "Brad has that natural leadership quality," Tom interjected. "People just trust him. He golfs with clients, knows how to work a room. You're always so serious, so intense." Intense. Another code word I'd heard my whole career. Too intense when I asked for data to support decisions. Too aggressive when I pointed out logical flaws. Too ambitious when I applied for promotions I'd earned. "We're offering you a generous severance," Patricia said, sliding another paper forward. 2 months' pay, continued health insurance through the quarter. Sign this NDA, and we can all move forward professionally. I studied the non-disclosure agreement. Standard language about not discussing internal practices, not disparaging the company, not recruiting clients. And if I don't sign, then you're terminated for performance issues, effective immediately. No severance, no reference. Craig's smile was razor thin. "Your choice." I thought about my mother, who'd cleaned offices like this one for 30 years, so I could sit in rooms like this. About my father, who'd been passed over for promotion after promotion at the factory, always told he wasn't management material. About every young black professional who'd sit in this chair after me. "I need time to review this with my attorney." Patricia's face flushed. "Attorney, Marcus, we're trying to help you here." Don't make this adversarial. Requesting legal review of a contract is adversarial. It's aggressive, unnecessary. This is exactly the behavior we're talking about. Tom's mask was slipping. I stood, straightening my tie. I'll have my response by end of business Monday. Sit down, Craig commanded. We're not finished. I paused at the door, turned back slowly. Actually, we are. Unless you're refusing to allow me legal counsel before signing away my rights? The silence crackled. Through the glass, I saw Janice from accounting quickly look away. Brad, in his corner office, was watching with undisguised interest. Monday, Patricia finally said. But Marcus, consider your future in this industry. It's smaller than you think. Walking to my desk, I felt every eye tracking me. Some sympathetic, most just curious about the drama. I'd become the cautionary tale by lunch, the one who didn't know his place, who pushed too hard, who didn't understand the game. I packed methodically. 3 years reduced to a banker's box, my MIT diploma, the photo from my first big client win, the coffee mug my team gave me that said, "World's most demanding boss." Meant as a joke, but maybe it wasn't. Marcus? Janice appeared beside me, voice low. I saved everything. What? The emails, the meeting recordings where they discussed your situation. Everything's on this drive. She pressed a USB into my hand. They did the same thing to Denise, and to James, and to every person who looked like you who ever got close to real power here. Janice, I'm retiring next month. 30 years watching this game. Time someone changed the rules. She squeezed my shoulder. Don't let them win. That weekend, I sat in my apartment, laptop open, USB inserted. Email after email filled my screen. Marcus is getting too visible with the Morrison win. Need to manage optics. Patricia to Craig. Can't have him present to the board. You know how traditional they are. Craig to Tom. Assign Brad as co-lead. Clients need to see the right face on this. Tom to team. Performance issues, they'd said. Cultural fit, they'd claimed. But here it was in black and white. A coordinated effort to limit my rise, to keep me productive but never powerful. I called my college roommate, David, now a partner at a private equity firm. They fired you? His disbelief was genuine. Marcus, you're the best consultant I know. Wrong color for the C-suite, apparently. Their loss. Listen, I'm working on something. Brennan and Associates, actually. Their numbers look good on paper. But there are rumors about their actual performance. Might be an acquisition target if someone could prove they're overvalued. My pulse quickened. How overvalued? If their top performer was actually carrying the firm, if their leadership was incompetent, could drop the price by 40%, maybe more. Monday morning, I didn't go to Brennan and Associates. Instead, I met with David and his partners. By Thursday, I'd accepted a position as strategic consultant for Apex Capital, specifically to evaluate potential acquisitions in the consulting space. My first assignment, a deep dive into Brennan and Associates. For 2 years, I worked quietly, building relationships with their departed employees. There were many, all with similar stories, analyzing their public filings, finding discrepancies, documenting how they'd lost 7 major clients after forcing out their top performers, all people of color. I learned that Brad's promotion had been a disaster. The Morrison Industries contract I'd built, gone within 6 months. 3 other major clients followed. They'd hired replacement after replacement, but without the people who actually knew how to do the work. People like me, like Denise, like James. They were hemorrhaging money and reputation. Patricia had started taking a more active role, making increasingly desperate decisions. Craig was under investigation for expense fraud. Tom had been quietly demoted after losing another major account. They're vulnerable, David said, reviewing my report. Extremely vulnerable. The board is looking for a buyer. They need someone who understands their business, their clients, their mistakes, someone who could turn it around. He smiled. Interested in running your own firm? The number he showed me was significant but manageable, especially with Apex's backing. We could acquire Brennan and Associates for a fraction of its previous value. I would be installed as CEO with full authority to restructure. One condition, I said. I want to walk in through the front door. I want them to see me coming. David laughed. You've earned that much. Chapter 2. The acquisition moved through legal channels with the quiet efficiency of institutional money. I spent 18 months preparing, not just the business case, but myself. Executive coaching, not because I needed to learn leadership, but because I wanted to understand every game they played. I studied every bias, every coded phrase, every subtle way they justified their discrimination. More importantly, I studied them. Patricia's LinkedIn posts about inclusive leadership while running a firm with 0 black senior managers. Craig's speaking engagements on merit-based advancement at conferences where he networked exclusively with his fraternity brothers. Tom's blog about cultural fit that might as well have been titled How to Legally Discriminate. Janice, now retired, became my unofficial intelligence officer. She introduced me to former employees, clients who'd left, vendors who'd been mistreated. Each conversation added another piece to the mosaic of institutional dysfunction I was building. You know what's funny? Denise said over coffee. She'd been forced out 2 years before me, despite having the highest billable hours in the firm's history. They always said I was too aggressive in negotiations. Then they'd send Brad to the same clients with my talking points, and suddenly it was confident leadership. James, who'd left to start his own firm, was blunter. They wanted our work, our ideas, our relationships, just not us. They'd extract everything we built, then act surprised when it fell apart without us. The pattern was clear and documented. Hire talented black professionals. Work them twice as hard for less recognition. Take credit for their successes. Force them out when they sought advancement. Replace them with cultural fits who couldn't maintain the standards. Watch the decline. Blame market conditions. Meanwhile, Brennan and Associates was imploding in slow motion. Their desperation painted itself across every quarterly report, every hasty restructuring, every panicked pivot. They'd lost 40% of their revenue in 2 years. The founding Brennan family was looking for an exit. David's firm made the initial approach through intermediaries. The negotiations were handled by Associates, keeping my name out of it. The Brennan board, led by Patricia's father, was eager. They saw Apex Capital as their salvation, a way to exit with dignity and a decent payout. They don't know it's you? Janice asked during one of our regular lunches. Not yet. The documents list Apex as the buyer, with leadership to be determined post-acquisition. And when they find out, by then the contracts will be signed. They'll have their money, less than they hoped, but more than they deserve. And I'll have my firm. She smiled, the same knowing expression she'd worn when she handed me that USB drive. 30 years I waited to see this. The final negotiations happened on a Tuesday. I watched from David's office as his team dismantled Brennan's inflated valuation piece by piece. Every lost client I documented. Every departed employee they'd failed to replace adequately. Every missed projection they'd tried to hide. It all came out. Their top performer left 3 years ago, David's associate said, reading from my report without naming me. A consultant who'd been responsible for 35% of new business. They claimed it was a performance issue. But we've interviewed 6 clients who threatened to leave when he was terminated. 4 of them did leave within the year. I saw Patricia's father flinch on the video screen. Patricia herself was silent, her usual command presence notably absent. We're prepared to offer $40 million, David said. That's generous, considering the structural issues. They'd hoped for 70, expected 60, would have accepted 50. At 40, they were broken but not bankrupt. They took it. "There's one more thing," David added as contracts were being signed. "Our CEO will want to meet with senior leadership on Monday. Full team, mandatory attendance." "Of course," Patricia's father said, defeat in his voice. "We look forward to meeting them." I spent the weekend preparing my entrance, not with vengeance in mind. That's a poison that kills the one who drinks it. But with justice. Clear, cold, documented justice. I had Janice's USB drive professionally authenticated. Every email, every recorded conversation, every piece of evidence that showed the systematic discrimination. I had testimonials from 23 former employees, all describing the same patterns. I had data showing how the firm's performance correlated directly with their discriminatory practices. The more they pushed out diverse talent, the worse their numbers became. But most importantly, I had a plan for the future. A real restructuring that would save jobs, restore client relationships, and build something better from the wreckage of their prejudice. Sunday night, I called my parents. "You're nervous," my mother said. "It wasn't a question." "They told me I wasn't leadership material, Mom." "Baby, they told your father the same thing. They told me I was too uppity when I suggested a better way to organize the cleaning schedules. They tell us that whenever we show them we're smarter than they assumed." "What did you do?" "I started my own cleaning company." "Your father became shift supervisor despite them. We didn't let their limitations become ours." She paused. "But you're going to do something they never expected. You're going to show them exactly what leadership material looks like." I thought about all the meetings where I'd been interrupted, dismissed, overlooked. All the times my ideas became Brad's ideas. My successes became team efforts while my struggles were personal failures. All the coded language, aggressive, intense, not a culture fit. That meant one thing: you don't belong here. Tomorrow I would belong there. Not because they finally accepted me, but because I'd bought the building. "The best revenge," my father added, "is massive success. But the best justice, that's showing them the cost of their prejudice. Make them understand what they lost when they lost you." That night, I reviewed the employee files. 63 people still worked at Brennan and Associates. Most were good people trapped in a toxic system. The assistants who'd smiled at me sympathetically, the junior consultants who'd sought my mentorship, the IT staff who'd helped me work around the technological barriers they'd subtly erected. They didn't deserve to suffer for Patricia's prejudices. My plan would preserve their jobs, possibly improve them. But Patricia, Craig, Tom, and the senior leadership who'd participated in the discrimination, they would learn what performance issues really meant. I pulled up the firm's website, looking at the leadership page. 7 faces, all white, all male except for Patricia. Their bios talked about excellence, innovation, diverse thinking. The irony was suffocating. By tomorrow afternoon, that page would look very different. I opened my laptop one more time, reviewing the presentation I'd prepared. Not just numbers and projections, but the real story of Brennan and Associates. How they'd had everything: talent, reputation, opportunity, and threw it away because they couldn't see past skin color. The financial data told the story in stark terms. Every quarter, after they'd forced out a high-performing minority employee, revenues dropped. Every time they promoted based on cultural fit rather than merit, client satisfaction declined. Their prejudice wasn't just morally wrong, it was financially catastrophic. But numbers don't capture the human cost. The careers derailed, the talents wasted, the innovations lost because they couldn't imagine a black man in a corner office. The clients who'd left not just because they lost good consultants, but because they saw what kind of firm Brennan really was. Tomorrow I would walk through those glass doors, not as Marcus the consultant who wasn't leadership material, but as Marcus the CEO who'd bought their failures and would rebuild from their ruins. I thought about leaving the world's most demanding boss mug in my box. But no, that would go on my new desk. Let them see it and remember who they'd tried to break. The email went out at 11 p.m. Sunday night, from Apex Capital to all Brennan and Associates employees. Mandatory all-hands meeting Monday 9 a.m. Your new CEO will be addressing the future of the firm. Attendance is required for all personnel. I wondered how many of them would sleep tonight, worried about their jobs. I wondered if Patricia would recognize the time, the same hour she'd summoned me to my termination. I wondered if she'd even remember me at all. They always said I was too intense, too aggressive, too ambitious. Tomorrow they'd learn I was just intense enough, just aggressive enough, just ambitious enough to buy the whole damn company. Chapter 3. Monday morning arrived grey and drizzling, the kind of Chicago weather that makes glass buildings look like monuments to ambition. I stood outside Brennan and Associates at 8:45 a.m., watching employees hurry through the rain. Some I recognized, their faces older, more worried. Others were new, hired to fill the gaps left by those forced out. I wore the same charcoal suit, my grandmother's favorite, the one that made me look presidential. In my briefcase, the authenticated USB drive, the testimonials, the real financial data, but more importantly, the future, a complete restructuring plan that would save the firm by destroying everything Patricia and her leadership team had built on prejudice. At 8:55, I walked through the front doors. The security guard, Robert, did a double take. He'd always been kind to me, one of the few who'd treated me like I belonged there. "Mr. Marcus? Good to see you, sir. Are you here for the meeting?" "I'm here to run it, Robert." His eyes widened, then crinkled into a knowing smile. About time. The elevator ride felt both eternal and instant. 4th floor. The same conference room where they'd told me I wasn't leadership material, now filled with every employee, chairs packed in, people standing against the walls, the air thick with anxiety. They'd arranged a podium at the front. Patricia sat in the first row with Craig and Tom, their faces wearing professional masks of cautious optimism. They expected a standard corporate savior, someone from Apex to promise stability, gradual change, maybe some layoffs, but nothing dramatic. I entered from the back, walking slowly down the center aisle. The murmurs started immediately. "Is that Marcus? What's he doing here? Didn't he get fired?" Patricia turned at the commotion. Our eyes met. I watched the recognition bloom, then confusion, then the beginning of understanding. Her face went from pink to white in seconds. "Good morning," I said, taking the podium. "I'm Marcus Thompson, your new CEO." The silence was absolute. 3 years ago, I sat in this room while the leadership team told me I lacked executive presence, that I was too aggressive, that I wasn't leadership material, that I didn't fit the culture. I let each phrase land. Today, I own this company. Craig started to stand. Sit down, Craig." My voice carried the authority they'd said I'd never have. "You'll have your turn to speak in your exit interview." Gasps rippled through the room. "Let me tell you what happened to Brennan and Associates," I continued, clicking to my first slide. 3 years ago, this firm had revenues of $67 million. Today, you're at $38 million. You lost the Morrison Industries account, the one I built. You lost Hartwell Corporation. You lost Pinnacle Finance. In total, you've lost 43% of your client base. Click, next slide. But the numbers tell only part of the story. "Janice, would you stand up?" Janice, sitting in the back, stood slowly. Some of you know Janice. 30 years with this firm. She watched every talented black professional get pushed out when they got too successful. She documented it all. Click. An email appeared on screen. Patricia to Craig. "Marcus is getting too visible with the Morrison win. Need to manage optics." Patricia's face flushed deep red. "That's taken out of context, is it?" Click. Another email. Craig to Tom. Can't have him present to the board. You know how traditional they are. Click. Tom to team. Assign Brad as co-lead. Clients need to see the right face on this. Those are private communications, Tom sputtered. We're private. Now they're evidence. Janice gave them to me before I left. My attorneys have authenticated everything. I clicked through more slides. Testimonials from former employees. Denise describing the same discrimination. James detailing the systematic extraction of ideas from black consultants given to white colleagues for presentation. 23 stories, all painting the same picture. You had everything, I said, my voice steady but forceful. Talented people, bringing innovative solutions, diverse perspectives driving growth, clients who valued excellence over appearance, and you threw it away because you couldn't imagine someone who looked like me in a position of power. Brad, standing against the wall, looked ill. Marcus, I didn't know. Yes. You did, Brad. You sat in the meetings where they discussed how to transfer my accounts to you. You took credit for my presentations. You got promoted using my strategies, while I got fired for being too aggressive. I clicked to the financial analysis. Every time you forced out a high-performing minority employee, revenues dropped an average of 8% the following quarter. Every promotion based on cultural fit rather than merit corresponded with decreased client satisfaction. Your prejudice wasn't just morally bankrupt, it was literally bankrupt. Now wait a minute, Patricia stood, trying to reclaim control. You can't come in here and make these accusations. I'm not making accusations. I'm stating documented facts. Sit down, Patricia. She remained standing, defiant. I'm the Director of Human Resources. Were. Past tense. Your termination letter is waiting in your office, along with Craig's and Tom's. You have 1 hour to clear your desks. The room erupted. Some employees looked shocked, others relieved. A few were openly smiling. Craig stood now, his face purple with rage. You can't do this! We have contracts, which include termination clauses for actions detrimental to the firm. Systematic discrimination qualifies. My lawyers assure me the evidence is overwhelming. This is revenge, Tom said quietly. Pure revenge. No, I said, meeting his eyes. Revenge would be destroying the firm completely, which I could do. I have enough evidence to bury you in lawsuits. Instead, I'm rebuilding it. Click. New slide. New. Effective immediately, Denise Williams returns as Director of Operations. James Chen as Director of Client Relations. We're bringing back every talented professional you forced out, if they'll have us. More murmurs, but different now. Hopeful. For the rest of you, I continued, addressing the wider room. Your jobs are safe if you can work in an actual meritocracy. No more promotions based on golf games and fraternity connections. No more ideas stolen from junior staff. No more cultural fit as code for discrimination. The board won't stand for this. Patricia's father had been silent until now. Sitting in the corner, I built this firm and sold it to Apex Capital. To me, the board has no say anymore. I turned to him. Mr. Brennan, you enabled this culture. You watched your daughter and her team destroy what you built through prejudice and nepotism. The firm bearing your name became synonymous with discrimination. That's your legacy. He sank into his chair, defeated. I clicked to my final slide, the new organizational chart. We're renaming the firm, Phoenix Consulting, rising from the ashes of your failures. We'll honor existing client contracts, but under new management. We're implementing blind resume reviews, transparent promotion criteria, and diversity isn't just a poster on the wall anymore. You think you've won, Patricia said, gathering her things, but this industry is small. People talk. Yes, they do. They'll talk about how Brennan and Associates collapsed under discriminatory leadership. They'll talk about how a black man you said wasn't leadership material saved 60 jobs by buying the firm. They'll talk about how Phoenix Consulting became the most successful turnaround in Chicago consulting history. I pulled out the authenticated USB drive, holding it up. They'll also talk about the lawsuits if any of you violate your NDAs or try to sabotage this transition. This evidence goes public if you make one wrong move. Security appeared at the door. I'd arranged for them to arrive at precisely this moment. These officers will escort you to your offices, I said to Patricia, Craig, and Tom. You have 1 hour. Any company property, including client lists, remains here. Any attempt to contact clients will result in legal action. As they were escorted out, Patricia turned back. You were always too aggressive, Marcus. This proves it. No, Patricia. I was always exactly aggressive enough. You just couldn't handle a black man who wouldn't accept your limitations. The door closed behind them. The room remained silent for a moment, processing what they'd witnessed. For everyone else, I said, my tone softening, the real work begins now. We have clients to win back, trust to rebuild, and a culture to transform. It won't be easy. Some of you benefited from the old system, and that changes today. But if you're willing to be part of something better, something based on actual merit, actual innovation, actual excellence, then stay. Robert, the security guard, started clapping. Slowly, others joined. Not everyone. Some looked uncomfortable, uncertain, but most seemed relieved, like a weight had lifted. Janice approached the podium, tears in her eyes. 30 years, she said quietly. 30 years I waited to see justice. Justice is just the beginning, I replied. Now we build something better. The next hours blurred. One-on-one meetings with department heads, calls to former clients. Explaining the change in leadership. Denise and James arriving, ready to rebuild. The looks on employees' faces when they realized their ideas would finally be heard, their contributions recognized. By afternoon, Patricia's office, now my office, had been cleared. I stood at the window looking out at the Chicago skyline. The same view she'd had while making decisions that destroyed careers and damaged lives. David called. How did it go? They never saw it coming. Their mistake. They had Marcus Thompson and threw him away for Brad from the country club. Brad's actually not a bad consultant, I said, just mediocre. Without stolen ideas and systemic advantages, he's average. He'll have to earn his place now. You're keeping him? If he can handle having a black CEO, if he can handle earning promotions instead of inheriting them, if he can handle being judged on merit alone, that's generous. That's leadership. That's something they said I'd never understand. That evening I sent an all-staff email. Team today marked not an ending but a transformation. Phoenix Consulting rises from the ashes of discrimination, built on principles of merit, innovation, and inclusive excellence. Some of you may wonder why I returned to a place that rejected me. The answer is simple. I didn't return to Brennan and Associates. I came to build Phoenix Consulting, where your value isn't determined by your appearance, but by your contributions. The road ahead is challenging. We have relationships to repair, trust to rebuild, and success to achieve. But we have something Brennan and Associates never had, the full talent of all our people. Not just those who fit a narrow, prejudiced definition of leadership. To those who left because of discrimination, we want you back. To those who stayed despite it, your resilience will be rewarded. To those who participated in it, redemption is possible through changed behavior. Tomorrow we begin the real work. Tonight, know that Phoenix Consulting will be what Brennan and Associates could never be, a place where everyone can rise. Marcus Thompson, CEO, Phoenix Consulting. Before leaving, I placed one item on my desk, the coffee mug that said, "World's Most Demanding Boss." But now I added a post-it note. Demanding excellence, not conformity. Walking out through the same lobby where I'd carried my box of belongings 3 years ago, Robert stopped me. "Mr. Marcus, my grandson just graduated from Northwestern, business degree. He was told by 3 firms that he wasn't polished enough. You hiring? Send me his resume. We judge on potential, not Polish." He nodded, understanding passing between us. Outside, the rain had stopped. The setting sun broke through the clouds, painting the glass buildings gold. 3 years ago, they'd told me I wasn't leadership material, that I was too aggressive, that I didn't fit their culture. They were right about one thing: I didn't fit their culture. Their culture was built on prejudice, sustained by mediocrity, and doomed to failure. I didn't fit it. I bought it. And now I'd transform it into something they never imagined, a success built on actual merit. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with texts. My phone. Former clients interested in returning. Former employees asking about positions. Current employees expressing gratitude for change. But the one that mattered most was from my grandmother. "Heard you looked presidential today, baby." I smiled. The best revenge isn't destroying those who wronged you. It's succeeding so completely that they have to watch you save what they broke. Patricia, Craig, and Tom would watch from the sidelines as Phoenix Consulting achieved everything Brennan and Associates couldn't. Led by the same black man they said wasn't leadership material. Justice served, excellence demanded, leadership demonstrated. The transformation was just beginning.